Our reporter Manelisi Dubase is standing by for us in Parliament to give us a preview from the political parties on their expectations of the supplementary budget. Manelisi, it's over to you.
Thank you very much, Nompu. You can see that it's really a very, very unusual day today. I'm sure you have been here several times when we have these budget speeches. It would be this place here where we are, just in front of the National Assembly, where some of members of Parliament will be when the Minister will be delivering this budget at 3 o'clock. This place used to be a hive of activity with business people, politicians, and everybody else. But today, because of COVID-19, we are only having less than 100 members of Parliament that would be inside here. And looking around here in Parliament, I could see throughout the day that we probably have less than 50 staff members of Parliament who are here, and only a couple of SABC journalists. But with me, the people who will always be here as usual are members of Parliament from different political parties who are looking forward to this budget. With me is Jordan Hill-Lewis. Jordan, I know that you have been saying a whole lot of statements over the week and you have been having all sorts of expectations. Let me ask you one thing. Do you think the minister is having any space, fiscal space to maneuver today?
Absolutely no space left, I'm afraid, Manelisi. The minister has to walk on a tightrope, walk on a knife's edge today between taking on a little bit more debt. That's unavoidable, I'm afraid, because we are in the midst of an unprecedented economic crisis and the government has no money. So he has to fund the crisis response. At the same time, he has to be extremely disciplined about what debt he takes on to make sure that our debt doesn't go totally out of control, and our interest charges. So he's got to walk that knife edge very carefully. And if we see that debt is going too much out of control over the next few years, then the market response to this budget will be very negative. If he can show that there is a credible plan to get it under control with very disciplined spending, then it might just be a good day for the minister. But it's a very, very difficult job that he has today.
But obviously he's having pressures from all sides. I mean, on the other side, you, the opposition parties, you'll obviously have something to say about what he's going to say. And on the other side, the unions are still demanding wage increases.
This is impossible. Even before COVID hit, our economy was in a very bad way. And that's why the minister announced in February the 160 billion rand cut to public wages. There's no way that he can go back on that now. If he goes back on that, all of our debt and deficit numbers go totally out of control, way, way worse than they look even now. So that is one of the key things that we'll be looking for. Does he hold the line on public sector wages? Does he hold the line on bailouts for SAA, for example? Those are the key flags that we are looking for today. He's got no space to do that.
Mm-hmm. What do you think he might possibly cut?
Well, as I said, he's got to stick to the cut on public wages, and then he's got to go through the budget and look at all the consumption spending, wasteful spending, luxuries in government, overseas travel, new vehicles. All of that adds up to billions of rands. And I'm afraid even that is not going to be enough. He's going to have to look at government programs that are not essential. Essential programs that are looking after poor South Africans, that are providing infrastructure, education and healthcare, they have to stay. But there has to be a fundamental re-engineering of what government does in South Africa, because we just can't afford to do everything we currently do anymore. So the cuts over time, not necessarily this year because we are in a crisis, as I say, but the cuts over time, the next few years, are going to have to be very, very deep.
Jordan, thank you very much. Maybe I can still, in this 1 minute, just squeeze in Mr. Steve Swart from the ACDP. Stevie, the government is literally broke. What can the minister do today?
No, absolutely. And we know he's got no fiscal space to move, so he's got to address the expenditure side. We've already seen he's looking to cut 17% from each department. And then, of course, the money that is to be spent, this 500 billion, must be spent properly. He's got to be and government must be a good steward of that. We need real-time auditing of that expenditure. And where any money is stolen, we need the hawks and the prosecuting authorities to get hold of it very quickly. We cannot afford to have money stolen now in this time where we need to save lives and livelihoods. And there are mechanisms to collect that money where it is stolen. So it's very important, very, very strict fiscal discipline, fiscal consolidation path going forward. It must be credible. And of course, the question is, he's going to come with a package, but is it going to be politically acceptable by the different factions within the governing party? So we wish him everything the best in this pandemic, in this crisis. But coming into the crisis, we were already facing a recession. And obviously, we see that revenue is down by 280 billion rand. We see that the government debt levels are going to shoot up. There's going to be borrowing, but we've got to be good stewards of every cent we borrow because it must be repaid.
Stevie, let's see if that happened, and we'll be back with you right here just after 4 o'clock when the minister finishes speaking. He starts speaking at 3 o'clock exactly, Nompu, and we will be here getting some reaction as soon as these members of parliament and others hear exactly what the minister will be saying. Back to you now.
I just wanted to tap onto what you were saying earlier about the quiet streets. You know, usually on an annual basis, I'll visit you there in Cape Town and we'll work together. And like you say, there'll be a hive of activity in the Parliamentary Square. But what is the mood among the few people that are there? You say less than 100 people are going to be attending. What is the mood? And is there great expectation, or are people generally feeling like, you know, this is an impossible situation that we're in?
Nombu, maybe I should give you a little bit of a context. You know, we are the epicenter of this COVID-19 disease. If you can come here in Cape Town right now, we have been here during these times when there's a budget or opening of parliament. And people in Cape Town at any given time, not only here in parliament, but in the streets of Cape Town, they are all over the place, all over the restaurants, all over the hotels and so on. But today I can tell you that Cape Town looked like a ghost town. I mean, here in parliament, especially that we have had some tragedies. We have 10 COVID victims right here inside Parliament. Unfortunately, one of them, and may his soul rest in peace, has passed on. 3 of them, I understand, they have recuperated, and others are still quarantined. But as I say to you, that if you can come here, you might think that it's a weekend, maybe Saturday or Sunday. But what will happen now, as members of parliament are also not allowed to come as early as possible here, they've been told that they should come at least 30 minutes before that. So I was able to grab some of them so that they can just come inside parliament, stay 1.5 meters away from each other, and as soon as the minister or the speaker comes in, or the deputy speaker, whoever is going to be there, and then they can just start the proceedings, and from there they come back to us, and then they give us their reaction and they bugger off.
So Manelisi, you know what, you touched on a very interesting topic with one of the MPs there around the public sector wages. Of course, the finance minister has said that he cannot basically give the increases that the public sector is waiting for the 2020-2021 financial year. And they've said, I saw a representative from SATU saying that if the government does renege on that agreement, they'll be held to pay. Do you think that there's going to be massive political fallout from that move? Because it looks as though he's going to be sticking to his guns.
Nompu, I don't wish to have Tito's job this afternoon. I mean, the political parties, all of them, besides the one I just spoke with them on air right now, I've spoken with others, they are so content that he mustn't move back to that. In terms of the wage bill, they say that they are not going to support anything that doesn't cut the wage bill. Almost all political parties, except, of course, the EFF. But on the other hand, as we are saying, that the trade unions seem not to be backing off also on the agreements that they had with the government. But the fact of the matter, Nompu, is that the government doesn't have money. That's the problem. I mean, you'll recall that when we were here in February, the minister allocated about 5 billion rand for our reserves. That money is gone. And the money that we can get now is the money we can borrow. And that's all the money that is there. And you can't borrow money to increase wages. That is a fact. That's why I'm saying that I don't wish I can have the minister's job today.
You're doing a pretty good job where you are. Thanks very much, Manelisi. My colleague there, Manelisi Dubase, reporting from Parliament Square.